Stay with me tonight, my love. The wine will keep us warm. There's nowhere else to be right now besides in you.
Welcome to East Coast DNA. I'm your host, Darcy Walsh. And today's guest, we have Jessica Rhaye. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you very much. Nice to chat with you today, Darcy.
So I was familiar with who you were already when your people had reached out to me, and I was familiar with your people as well. So I had a little geek out moment for a minute. I'm like, oh, cool.
Oh, nice.
Cool. So
yeah. That's great.
So we will talk a little bit more about your more recent release. But to start off, for people that are not already familiar with Jessica Rhaye, you have been performing for quite some time. You've won quite a few awards over the years, and you've had some different placements and stuff, some sync licensing maybe.
Yeah. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been singing and writing music since I was a kid, really. But professionally, like, I always think of my first record. That was when I was introduced to the music industry, the music business, and that was in 2000. So I've been at it for more than 20 years.
Well, and to go through your solo career,
yeah,
which I'll differentiate a little bit from your more recent material, but I started to go through to see who the other players were with you, to see if there was any kind of connectivity for like the different supporting people you had with you, and I immediately stopped making notes because we would need to have like a whole series just on you and who you've played with, because every name felt like a name drop. I mean, I realize you were probably coming up at the same time a lot of these people were, so it's probably just that you had good taste in the musicians you decided to collaborate with at the time.
Yeah, I guess I know I was introduced to Eddie Woodsworth, who's from Cape Breton, bass player, phenomenal bass player, when I put out my first record. And he didn't work with me on my first album, but he put together a band for me back in 2000. And they were all Cape Breton, huge players. Kim Dunn, let me think. Who else? Jamie Robinson. Like, these are all phenomenal players. And so just really through the Cape Breton contingency, I really got connected with some amazing musicians. And of course, I recorded 3 records with Eddie Woodsworth and Jamie Folds from Sound Park Studios. Just, wonderful people, and they're all connected, with Gordy Sampson. So it was just, the more people the more connections you make, and the more doors open for you. And that's just kind of how I think that's life, really. I mean, it's not just in music, but it's no matter what profession you're in, whatever job you're in, the more connections you make.
So you're New Brunswick-based, though.
I am, yes.
So, and were you always?
I've always been New Brunswick, yes. Yeah, that's my.
There's a heavy number of Nova Scotians in that list of collaborators there, and like you're mentioning Cape Breton, right? So
yeah,
there's definitely a heavy amount of the Nova Scotia side there in with your body of work.
Yeah. Even, I don't know, Asif Ilias. I don't know if you're familiar with him and his brother. They put together a concert, I remember, in Nova Scotia, and they were called the Mere. They were called Mere, their band.
Yes, I remember that. That was at a time when I wouldn't have been doing anything like this, but I was familiar with them. The Glasgow Jubilee is held not far from where I live.
Okay.
And a lot of upcoming bands end up on that bill at some point because it's a 3-day festival. So I know that they were through here, and I follow the Halifax scene even when I wasn't podcasting. So definitely a band. They had a name change at one point, didn't they?
I think they did. I can't remember what it was. I know their record was called Invisible Science.
Yes.
I don't remember what they were called before, but I think you're right. They did have a different name. I knew them. I met them when they were Mere.
Yeah. Okay.
Of course, they put on the Mere Super Show and invited me to be part of it, and that really was a huge highlight in my whole music career, just to be part of that. Bruce Guthrie was part of that, and I'm really sad to hear of his passing. But
Mm-hmm.
I have great memories of him during that show, and just getting to play with a symphony. And yeah, I've been very fortunate along my music career, just the people that I've met and the opportunities that I've been given. And yeah, I think that's kind of why I still do it.
Yeah, it's with anything in the art side, if it has to be something that you like to do, like whether or not you're trying to make money from it, it has to be something that you like to do, or why would you put any effort into it at
Yeah,
all, I suppose.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I feel like music is just part of me. I know people are always saying, "Oh, you're still doing music. Are you still going to do music after you have children?" And like, yeah, absolutely. I don't think I'll ever stop. It's part of me.
Mm-hmm.
It's my way of expressing my feelings, and I'm very grateful that I have that avenue to, you know, to put out my
And
feelings.
speaking of avenues for expression outside of the music, but definitely tied into the music, you also have your whole design business.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
maybe tell me a little bit about that. I could go through and take some of the notes I have and regurgitate some of the people that I saw on there. There's some friends of the podcast that I've seen listed in the roster of things that you have out there.
Mhm. Well, I'll back it up to after high school. I always knew I wanted to be involved in music and arts.
Hmm.
And after high school, I did apply to some art colleges and universities. I did not get accepted. Felt very bummed about that. But looking back, I really only had I had a high school art uh,
Hmm.
portfolio, which wasn't really, I didn't really go outside of that. So that's really my own fault. But I did I took hairdressing, and I was a hairdresser for 4 years, and which is another very creative outlet. And I still use it today. I cut my children's hair, my husband's hair, my mom's hair. So it's also a trade that it's great to have. Um, but I know that I was still feeling very like I needed something more, and I really wanted to explore more art. And so I went to the craft college in Fredericton and BCCD, and I originally went there thinking I wanted to be a potter. I
Okay.
love pottery, and I thought I'm going to do this and I want to be a potter. And I took the class, and I quickly realized that I was not going to be a potter. Have you ever tried pottery?
Uh,
Like the wheel
you know
itself?
what? I'm thinking about it right now, and like I know the steps, and I feel like I have, but I can't actually recall ever really doing it. So
Well,
I'm gonna go with no.
I could mold little boxes and little sculptures, but when I got on the wheel, I don't know, I didn't have the strength.
Yeah.
My pots were crazy looking, and I guess that's an art sculpture in its own when they go kind of wonky. But I wanted the nice mugs and the nice bowls. They
It's
just were not happening.
interpretive art is one thing, and I appreciate it for what it is, but if you're the artist yourself and you know
Yeah.
it's not what you're trying to do, then it's yeah.
No, I was so discouraged. So I ended up taking a different medium. You can take, I think, 3 or 4 different ones when you're at the craft college during your
Okay.
first year. And graphic design was on there as well. So I went into graphic design, and I immediately loved it. And I thought, you know what? I've been doing graphic design all along, because
Hmm.
in high school, I was on poster committees. I was making posters. I was cutting up magazine letters and, creating designs, and always drawing, and always, coming up with cartoon characters, and envisioning, details, and drawings, and just how to put things together. So I was like, this is me. This is totally what feels right for me. So I took the graphic design course, absolutely loved it. They were probably some of my most creative years of my life when I was studying at the craft college, just being around so many creative
Hmm.
people, and just feeding off of their energy, and just it was so much fun. And then when I graduated from the craft college, I became a freelance artist. I love working by myself. I mean, I don't feel like I work completely by myself because, again, I've made connections with other designers. So, I can reach out to them if I need help, or if, something, if I'm not able to do a project, I can say I have this, a great designer friend of mine I can pass you on to. So, again, that's just about keeping connections open and opportunities. But yeah, so I that's what I do when I'm not making music. I'm designing, which
Yeah,
I love to do.
I do want to give a shout out to at least two of the names on there, and forgive me if there's somebody on that list of people that you've worked with on that side that I just missed when I was going through, but I know I saw some stuff with Christina Martin
Yes.
and Jacqueline Reinhardt. You did her
Yep.
album design.
Yeah, her album layout. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, and really that's kind of where I love to do design too, is music. I love album layout. Vinyl especially, like, it's so much fun to see your artwork huge, right? It's nice to see it on a CD too, but when it's blown up that large, or large posters, it's that much more satisfying for me to see. But yeah, I've worked with a lot of different artists with their album artwork. Matt Anderson, I did some of his work. But I've also had amazing artists to work with in avenues where I do illustrate, but that's not my wheelhouse necessarily. Like, I love layout. I love coming up with concepts. So I called on Judd Haynes. Are you familiar with Judd Haynes? As an artist
Through
illustrator?
things like this. Like
Yes.
from doing research and seeing the name pop up, definitely.
Yeah. Well, Judd Haynes he's from Newfoundland, and I crush on his artwork all the time. He's really my favorite illustrator. And I met him at an ECMA gala. We were both up for artist or designer of the year. It was a visual arts award, and he got all of the nominees together, and we had lunch together, and that was another highlight of my career as well. Just meeting with some like-minded people and really geeking out on graphic design. And but it was through that luncheon that we had that I made a connection with Judd, and we've worked on 2 albums together. He did the illustration for my Bob Dylan interpretation album, Just Like a Woman, Songs of Bob Dylan, and he just did the album artwork for my new record, Sunshine Baby. Yeah. So we collaborate. I did the lettering. I love lettering. That's another thing that I get excited about, our letters.
I was actually, the other night, I was looking at this and I was like, sometimes I try to replicate font when I do like the overlays for these episodes, and I was like, well, I can find something that's similar, but then the effect, I'm like, no, like there's somebody doing that. I was happy to see that, like, you're doing this yourself as well. It's really interesting.
Yeah, and sometimes I find when it comes to my own projects, when it's other people's projects, I can completely vision everything. But when it comes to my own projects, sometimes it's a little too close to my heart, and I need someone else's vision to direct me. It might sound really strange and weird that that's the case, but it really has been. But I find working with Judd, he just, I told him what I was thinking of, and he was like, boop, 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 whipped it all together, and was like, how about this? I was like, yes, that's it. And then from that illustration, I'm like, I can use the hand and the sun and all these elements and create other pieces, single artwork. I roll with it, and I feel, I sometimes need someone to kind of give me that little visual push, and then I can just I can go crazy with it.
What I run into myself is sometimes I need to explain the 3 or 4 paths I'm taking to somebody, so that they can arbitrarily say something that I'll pull a decision from.
Right.
Like they don't care.
No,
I could do any option, that they'd be fine with it, but I have to hear something from somebody else's input.
Yes.
And have that as the trigger for me to actually make a decision which path I'm taking.
Yeah. So that's the trigger. That's the word. You need a little trigger sometimes. And then you can go with it.
And so the new material, as I was referring to it, with the Ramshackle Parade. So there's the Bob Dylan album that you mentioned.
Yes.
So that's 2019. Is that, okay.
Yeah, it was 2019 we put out that record.
And then this new full album you put out in May.
Yes.
Sunshine Baby.
Yeah.
So actually this cardboard part I have here is like the little postcard placement that you had floating around at the ECMA. So I picked up one because
okay.
the artwork grabbed me. I go around and collect stickers and stuff, and I have a whole pile of business cards for reference if I ever need to find a guest. I'll just go over and pull through it.
That's awesome.
So I was telling Beth when she reached out too that like this was literally sitting on top of my pile over there.
Cool.
So like you were already on my list. So yeah, really, really good timing. Like I said, I knew the album was already out.
Yeah.
So it was exciting to see timing wise that I was planning on reaching out, and you're also getting ready to promote a tour.
Yeah, the tour. Well, some of it starts next week. We're playing the Maritimes, like our hometown show is next Saturday. So, yeah, I'm getting excited about it. It's starting to become real. Again, I've been designing all the promo pieces for it, just all the different videos and imagery that goes along with that in the posters. And but now it's like, okay, this is getting there. We're getting down to crunch time now. So I'm excited.
And so are you insinuating then that some of these design influences are being incorporated into your stage as well?
Yeah, actually,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
so you probably don't want to give away too much, but what can you give us as a teaser for the tour for anybody that's considering and not already buying a ticket?
Well,
let's get them over the fence.
Well, there's one particular video that, I just released a video actually for reaching out to you. I just released it the other day, and it's there's no lip singing to it at all. So it's all done in slow motion. It's shot very cinematic and I'm so happy with it. My mother's in it, my daughter, and 4 of my nieces, and it's just very dreamy. And I have this idea in my mind. We have to actually time it out to make sure that it's going to work, but I would really love to have it. I would like to have it playing in the background when we play that song. So, but that has to be timed out. You know what? Even if it wasn't, if it ended before we ended it, I think it would still work out all right. But
I'm
just
sure,
that visual in mind, yeah. And of course, I made the album cover. Things turn and eyes blink and flowers grow, and so I've kind of animated the album cover as well. So anyway, those are a couple little pieces that I've put together.
Well, that's cool. And I'll have a link or list down in the description for anyone that wants to see where the rest of the tour dates are.
Sure. That's great. Thank
you. Will you be touring with anyone on these, or do you have different supporting people with you on these dates, or is it?
We hadn't really no, but recently Dennis Ellsworth from PEI. Are you familiar with Dennis? Yeah, he was just added to our what show was it? The Redbird Live in Ottawa, Ontario. Yeah, so that's October 27th. He's going to be
cool.
He's going to be opening for us there. So yeah, I know Dennis. He and I did a Christmas thing years ago together in the market. So yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm not surprised his name probably was in that list. Like I said, I went through and then just didn't bother to make notes when I was looking at all the different people that you had performed with and collaborated with. Okay. Yeah. So I did want to ask you a little bit about that difference where I'm saying like the newer music versus the older music. So myself and anyone that's familiar with the show would be aware that I do this quite often too. I'm used to old school album collecting, even though I'm obviously living in this digital age. So yourself, you follow more of that old school structure of singles and album. So it's a little easier for my mind just to grasp onto. But I then immediately, which I can't do this with some of the newer bands because they're all in multiple projects at the same time. But when I look at yours, you have all of your single albums, like where it's you as a soloist.
Yeah.
And different people collaborating. But then the Ramshackle Parade comes in with a Bob Dylan tribute.
Yes.
And then a full album of original material.
Yeah.
So for you yourself as Jessica Rhaye. So how do you draw the division between the older material and the newer material? Like that's my way of referring to it. But is there a difference in the sound, or is it just that you wanted to identify that you have a new solid band that's always going to be the same players?
Right. It's a great question. I would say sound, absolutely. Sound and feel.
Mm-hmm.
These two projects are like, back it up to my solo projects and working with Ed Woodsworth and Jamie Folds and all the fabulous players in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. And I didn't really play on those records. I think there might be a couple that I actually played acoustic guitar on, but for the most part, it was, studio players came
Mm-hmm.
in and I would sit down. There was always a pre-production part that was involved in the making of those records. I would sit with Ed and Jamie, and we would come up with arrangements and and then we would go in and with musicians and play the parts, and then I would sing
Sure.
over top of it. But with the Dylan project, a lot of it was recorded live during the pre-production. So there's just a different energy, I think, when you're performing the songs all together and capturing some of those parts. It's different than when you're just playing to a click track, or you're just playing to drums and adding guitar or just adding bass. There were a lot of tracks that we kept a lot of the guitar, or we kept the piano, or because there was a feel that we couldn't recreate.
Mm-hmm.
And also the guys in the band, they're all singers and songwriters. They're in their own right. They're all uniquely their own solo artists. But together, there's something, I think it's kind of magical, really. It takes a long time, I feel like, to come together as a band and have that family kind of knit feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And I've loved all my everybody I've worked with in the past. I love everybody. I really do, that I've worked with, that has worked with me. I'm very fortunate they wanted to work with me. So, but I feel with these particular guys, because we come from such different but similar music backgrounds. I mean, we all love Bob Dylan. I think the guys are probably bigger Bob Dylan fans than me, right? Everybody's a Bob Dylan fan, but everybody has their own style of music that they love and they listen to. And I think collectively, when we get together and create music together, I think our musical styles complement each other, and it's that like the word ramshackle is really appropriate for our style, I think. So.
And when you mention the different influences too, I should have made a note for this so I'd have it for reference. One of the songs on the new album, it reminded me of kind of like Jefferson Airplane kind of thing.
Cool. Yeah.
But I definitely, like, as an overall, listening to the full album, I'm picking up maybe a lot of people have a Sarah McLachlan kind of sound in there, but I'm also picking up some Tori Amos kind of mixed in there.
Oh, nice.
So are those some of your influences, or is it really a hodgepodge of everyone?
I mean, it's a bit of a hodgepodge. I know, like, I grew up, my parents introduced me to folk music. So really my love for folk music was, I grew up on it. That was the music that my parents introduced me to: Bob Dylan, Joan Baez, the Beatles. I love the Beatles because my parents, that was our collection of music that we listened to. And then, of course, I was born in the 70s, but I grew up in the 80s. So, I listened to 80s music, and then, of course, the 90s, which is really, it's kind of funny that the 90s is all coming back. Do you find that?
Yeah, it's well,
90s music and fashion are all coming back.
go through the video list on the YouTube channel for East Coast DNA,
Yes.
and there's a lot on there. So like, God bless anybody that's listened to every single one of these.
Yeah.
But if you go through and for yourself, go through and pick out some of the younger artists that you can just tell visually scrolling through, and
Okay.
go and listen. And I would say 99% of the people in their early to mid 20s that are putting
Yeah.
together bands right now are
Yeah.
heavily 90s influenced.
It's the
Like,
90s, isn't
it
that
maybe
funny?
it's just I'm accidentally fallen into that category, and those are the people that are reaching out to me.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't
I
know,
don't
but
know. No, I think it's a thing.
there's something happening out there because they're all getting gigs, and
Oh,
they're all getting views. So
yeah.
there's an audience out there for it right now,
Yeah,
like,
I
for
mean, my
sure.
my kids, they watch movies and they look at YouTube and TikTok and all those things, and a lot of the songs that are, synced or playing in the background, they're all songs that I
Oh yeah,
listened to in high school, and they're thinking, "How do you know this song, Mom?" I'm like, "That is an old song, like,
yeah.
it's not new."
We're
It
we're
might
just
sound new
refusing to.
because
We
Ariana
won't.
Grande singing it, but it's not new.
We're refusing to call them classics, which would just make it make sense for the kids.
Well,
But
I bought I love shopping in different boutiques like vintage clothing boutiques and
mhm.
just places you would never find something so cool ever in a, Old Navy. So the dress that I'm wearing in a video that we shot for Sunshine Baby, I bought that in a vintage store, and the tag on it was brand new,
Oh
and
yeah,
it said 90s vintage. I was like, "Oh wow,
awesome.
I'm now vintage."
Yeah, yeah.
But no, but I mean, I loved Celine Dion. I loved Mariah Carey, all these huge vocalists, female
Hmm.
vocalists. I was trying to hit those notes. Like when I was trying to discover what I wanted to sing or how I wanted to sound or, perfect what had going on, I tried all those
Hmm.
vocal parts. But I listened to Anne Murray, Jana Arden, Rock Voisine. A
Hmm.
lot of those big vocalists I listened to and I followed and tried to emulate those types of singers. So
Well,
yeah.
it's kind of, I'm sure you'll find it. It's similar for both of us, I guess, is that what we're doing right now
Yeah.
in relation to music, that we're seeing the stuff that influenced us
Yeah.
influenced a completely different generation.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting to see that, like, if I was that age again, like, I would have all that same cool stuff again. It's just new versions of it. But I mean, if anything, with advances in technology and things that are available to people, like, everything may cost a fortune, but the stuff that used to be impossible to afford
Yeah.
is right at all of our fingertips right now.
Yeah.
So
You're right.
it'll be interesting to see how this kind of wave of music lasts over the next few years. If it's
Yeah.
something that, because it doesn't seem to be something, like, we're both saying, I'm not sure. It doesn't seem to be something that's like a passing fad that just kind of popped up as a trend.
Yeah.
It does seem like people that were organically influenced, likely because our generation had children and
Right.
they were influenced by what we were listening to when they were little.
Yeah.
And we didn't even realize that we were influencing them in some cases, probably.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We'll see
Yeah,
what happens, I guess. It's kind of cool.
exactly. So for anybody that's new to you and your band, what's a song that you'd like to play off with from your catalog, or maybe new single that give everybody a little taste of what to expect, and maybe get you a couple extra CDs? Or actually, you had mentioned vinyl. I recommend everybody listening at least take a couple seconds to go on Bandcamp and check out the vinyl collection that you guys have. You
Okay.
have real cool limited edition vinyl on there.
Cool.
I
Yeah.
won't even describe it. I won't do it justice. Go on to Bandcamp and take a look and buy a copy for yourself.
Awesome. Thank you.
So yeah,
Uh,
what song would you like to play for somebody?
oh, geez. Let me think now. Well, we did just release a video for reaching out to you. However, I think I would love for you to play I Feel Fine.
Perfect. I really have that written down here.
Yeah, I
That's
like to I like to hear
I have to show this. It's the very last note on my paper here is that I actually wrote that.
Oh, nice.
Good cut. That's what my notes are, just for reference to see how spot on I am.
Cool.
Well, thank you
A
very
magic
much for your
trick.
time. And everybody that's interested in grabbing a ticket, links down below, get information for the tour dates. And Jessica, in the future, if you have something new you want to promote, by all means, reach out. I'd be happy to
Okay.
hear more from you, and we'll be keeping an eye on you on this end anyway.
Okay, awesome. Thanks,
Yeah,
Darcy.
thanks
That was
again.
fun.
Stay with me tonight, my love. The wine will keep us warm. There's nowhere else to be right now besides in each other's arms. Flying's the only way to get high these days. It's all in my mind. Now that you're here, I feel fine. Ask me how my day was, love. I'm sure to answer quick. Yesterday my mind was tired and my heart was feeling sick. Crying's the only way to feel good these days. It's all in my mind. Ask me and I'll tell you I'm fine. For the first time I feel fine. I feel fine. I feel Dance with me all night, my love. Our feet won't touch the floor. Hold me even closer, love. It makes me want you even more. Seeing's the only way to believe these days. It's all in my mind. Dance with me and I'll be fine. For the first time I feel